Oh, hi, I didn't see you there. My name is Bliss Foster, and today we are going to spill all of the knowledge that I have about gathering knowledge about fashion. Overall, this channel is about analyzing runway shows and picking apart the nuanced stories and the artfulness behind designer clothing. But most often I get asked by people, how do I learn more about fashion? I'm really hungry for information. Where do you get all of your information? And now I am going to answer that entirely. This series, Fashion School, is one where I delve into the resources around fashion. This is going to be one where I just tell you what all of the resources are so that you can kind of start figuring that out for yourself, and then maybe in future episodes we can dive more deeply into specific steps that I'm giving you here. So I'm not a big fan of lists, but I think this episode is going to be a list because it just kind of makes the most sense. You should follow me on Instagram and Twitter because we have a lot of fun there, and you should subscribe to my Patreon so that I can make fashion my job. It starts at $3 and you get exclusive content. It's pretty cool. I don't want to waste any of your time because I respect you, so we're gonna do the theme song and get this cracking. You like the new setup, by the way? My parents' house is crazy, right? They bought it for $10. Okay, hey, do you want to learn more about fashion? Here's the deal. You have to make all of your passive info consumption about fashion. I'm gonna repeat that because if I was watching this video, I would have missed it. You have to make all of your passive info consumption about fashion. Your passive information diet is basically all of the things in your life that you're not gonna be like tested on in school or that you need in order to do your job. So what I want you to do is to make all of those passive info channels about clothes. How do you do this? Great question. Let's consult the list. Oh, real quick, just to say, these are not ordered by importance and you don't have to do all of them. Best advice here is to just grab a handful of them and do your best. Step 1, watch 3 runway shows every single night instead of watching Netflix. We're starting with a hard one. They won't all be like this. So if you do unwind by watching things, try watching 3 runway shows per night for 3 weeks instead of watching shows, and then just see how you feel. Which runway shows should you start with? Literally any of them. Just download the Vogue Runway app, scroll through until you see a collection that looks moderately interesting, search it on YouTube, and press play. Maybe pick a designer, start from the beginning, and work your way up to the most recent show that they did. Maybe mix it up and just watch a bunch of different designers. Whatever works for you. Again, we're not studying for a test here. This is passive consumption of information. Step 2, find an online community that revolves around fashion, then post and read it every single day. I don't want to brag, but the Discord that's for all of my Patreon supporters is freaking incredible. There are people there who are so much smarter than me. Most of my information about what's going on in fashion comes from there now. If you're part of a really good active online community that revolves around fashion, please post it in the comments. I will say, probably not going to be Instagram. Instagram doesn't really facilitate discussion, and that's really what you're wanting. You're wanting people to not just be posting like pictures and you just like look at the pictures. You're wanting for there to be discussion. Item number 3, only follow accounts about clothes. This is another hard one. I promise there are easy ones in here too. Go through your Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, whatever you use, and unfollow everything that doesn't have to do with clothes so that your feed is exclusively about fashion. I promise that after you do this, you won't even realize that half of the accounts you unfollowed are gone. And if they were super duper duper important, refollow them in a few months. If you're wondering like, but who do I follow? Like I only follow a few fashion accounts. Who do I need to follow? You'll figure it out. The algorithm for all of those sites is built around you following new people. They will help you with who to follow. Item number D, unfollow all influencers that are not providing you with information-driven content. This is actually pretty broad because I think you should think of information pretty liberally here. I would say that most meme accounts are usually pretty info-driven. Even if they're small little nuggets of information or reminders about things, or you learned about a new designer one time through this account, that all counts. Keep those guys on. But if it's just flexing with awesome outfits in pretty locations, you don't need it. Item number 5. Open up Netflix, Hulu, and Amazon Prime, search the term fashion documentary, and then watch everything. Watch them all. A question I get asked constantly is, what are the best fashion documentaries? Which fashion documentaries should I watch? Literally all of them. It won't even take you that long. Like how many times have I watched through King of the Hill? Like 8? I could have watched all the fashion documentaries twice in that time. And you don't need to like hunt down the super rare ones like the first Yohji Yamamoto documentary. Just worry about the ones that you have immediate access to. Search fashion documentaries and then just watch all of them. Wait 2 months, then watch all of them again because I mean, unless you're just incredibly good at holding information in your brain, a lot of it probably seeped out while you were watching it, and that's okay. Totally normal. This is all passive information consumption. The point is, you have to watch them all again. Numero 6, find fashion books and read them. We have a whole episode about this if you need like recommendations. That'll be down in the description. I have a literature degree and I'm an incredibly slow reader. And if you are also, it's nothing to be embarrassed about. You should just get the audiobooks. They're great. Item number 7 is kind of an extension of item number 6. If you're a bad bitch, buy used fashion school textbooks and read those. There are probably no audiobooks available for those. Again, this is the bad bitch step. Item 8. Have you noticed that this list doesn't include anything about buying clothes? Item number 9. Ask detailed questions. DM brands to ask them questions. Ask shop employees questions. If your grandma has ever made clothes, ask her questions. Ask me questions. My DMs are always open. I have a list of sample questions right here and I don't want to memorize it, so I'm going to read it to you. What is modal? Why is the stitching like this? How are hats made? Why don't structured dresses sell anymore? Why are so many things made in India? Why is it so expensive to make things in the US? What does it mean when something says made in the USA? What does a creative director actually do? What's a product manager? What's the hardest type of garment to make from scratch? Step 10. Keep a personal, private archive of images that inspire you that relate to fashion in some way. I put out a whole episode about how to get a really good archive started. So if you don't have one, you can learn to make one. They're super easy to start and they're very, very easy to maintain. You may also check that out in the description. Step 11 is kind of an extension of step 10. Become obsessed with reverse image searching images that you don't know the source of. If you see a really cool runway image but you don't know what it's from, save it to your camera roll and then use a reverse image search tool like Google. You literally just download the Google app, like just literally the plain app that is called Google. Then next to the microphone icon, you just click this little thing. It'll open up a camera for some reason. You're gonna wanna click this box up near the top. Select the image you wanna search for and it'll show you the results. There's probably gonna be a lot of things from like Pinterest or Tumblr. Just ignore those things. You're just looking for something that will tell you what the source is. A lot of times you can end up finding out a lot more about what's going on with that image because it's from like a blog post or something. You can continue learning. But don't get distracted because ultimately you need to save that to your personal archive and just throw a simple label on it. You don't even have to go crazy with the label. Helmut Lang, Spring Summer 1999 Runway Show Look Number 49. You can just be like, Helmet, SS99, post. Step 12, turn clothes inside out and look at how they're made. You don't have to know anything about clothing construction to take an interest in the way that clothes look when they're inside out. Do this to your own clothes, but more importantly, you want to do this in stores whenever stores become a thing again. Step 13, listen to as many fashion podcasts as you possibly can. I've also put out a video about really good fashion podcasts to learn more about the industry, so if you want some very nuanced recommendations, you can check that out in the description. Also, I'm just gonna give you a quick and dirty list. American Fashion Podcast, Blammo, Undressed, Corporate Lunch, Business of Fashion Voices. John Galliano's Margiela is surprisingly good. Throwing Fits, Business of Hype, and the High Snob podcast. Those are all really good places to start. If you know of any more that are good, please toss them in the description down below. All of the podcasts that I just named do not need to be listened to in order, so you can literally just scroll through, find a title that you like, and click on it. But I will say that usually listening to something that doesn't immediately strike you as interesting is probably going to have a lot of nuggets in it that you would have never learned otherwise. Some of the best episodes of the podcast that I just named have titles like, How Do You Manage a Global Inventory? We talk with someone you've never heard of to find out. Step 14. Are you in a position where you need a part-time job? Great. Get one that has something to do with clothes. Do you live in a city or country that has little to nothing to do with fashion? Great. The pressure's off then. This step is going to be really easy for you. Go be an assistant for a tailor that only works on military uniforms and old people clothes. Go work at a thrift store. Go be a cashier at a dry cleaner. Go work at the Nike outlet. Everything in the fashion web is connected. So if you're going to work and you're getting to passively learn about clothes, that is a huge, huge win. Now, if you do live in a city that's really into clothes, now the pressure is on. This is a very difficult step because you should be interning at the coolest place imaginable. You need to send out letters of interest to, no joke, 40 different brands that you love. I'm not kidding. Make a list. It should be a minimum of 40. This includes retailers, brands, PR agencies, anything that is even peripherally related to the kind of fashion that you want to be in. You should be applying for that so that your list can be over 40 places. I am not personally in love with Prada's menswear, but you bet your ass that if I lived in New York and I needed a part-time job, I would be applying for every possible thing that had to do with Prada. If you're not old enough to have a resume yet, you want to send out what's called a letter of interest. You want to send it to them on DMs on Instagram. You want to send the contact contact email that's on their website. You just tell them, I just turned 16. I really want to work for your brand because I love what you do. I'm a fast learner. I'm willing to do anything and I have an incredible attitude. Will you please let me come in and clean up after all of you? And then who knows, you might end up being kind of jealous of your friends in Minnesota who are cashiering at the dry cleaning place. And Kinsey, the final step, watch fashion YouTube. Here's the thing, I'm gonna give you a pro tip as somebody who creates fashion content on YouTube. The biggest pressure that we experience as content creators is to kind of shortchange everybody, including ourselves, on the quality of the content. To be frank, the things that get the most clicks and the things that get the most views and the things that end up getting the most traction and end up making us money ultimately are things usually that do not have a lot of informational value in them. This is not me dragging anybody or hating on anybody, but for you, the viewer, a pro tip from me, a creator, is that every 5 minutes of fashion YouTube that you watch, ask yourself the question, really pause the video and ask yourself the question, what have I learned in the last 5 minutes? And if you've been paying attention and you can't list off a single piece of information that you've learned, I would skip that video. And if that happens enough times on a channel, I would maybe find a different channel. Okay, wait. Step 16. One last thing I actually just remembered. Keep a journal of some kind listing the things that you are learning about fashion. You don't have to be crazy about this at all. It can just be bullet pointed lists. But as you're passively consuming all of these things, and to be frank, if you follow all of these steps, like, you are going to catch up on fashion so fucking quickly. But ultimately, writing things down helps the brain kind of log stuff away in a more permanent place. So if you learn something interesting about, say, the way that Raf Simons transposed a sterling ruby image onto a dress while he was at Dior, just jot it down real quick. This technique is called this. It's challenging because of this. Done. Do I need to clarify anything? Do you have any questions? I love questions. Start asking good questions in the comments so that I can answer all of them. Also, go follow me on the places and join my Patreon because it really is pretty kick-ass. I love you enough to bite you playfully. Goodbye.